Hello and welcome to the Tech Geek podcast, folks. I'm Sukriti, your host for the session, and today I'm here to talk about how data, analytics, and AI are powering business growth and innovation. COVID-19 pandemic has proven the tangible value of data and analytics across business. Beyond accelerating the response to the business and market changes, they achieved sustained growth in business performance. Today, I'm here with a very special guest with me to talk about how these elements are empowering the innovations ecosystem. Folks, please join me in welcoming Akhilesh Ayer, EVP and Global Head WNS Triange. Welcome to the show, Akhilesh.
Thank you so much, Sukriti. Very excited to be part of this discussion. As we know, data is the new oil, and oil is a precious commodity nowadays. So very excited. Thank you.
Indeed, Akhilesh. So let's quickly go ahead with the questions that we have, and I'm really, looking forward to some great insights today in this conversation. So, Akhilesh, tell me, what are the primary digital accelerators that will aid businesses in regaining their foot in the new normal?
Sukriti, accelerators by their very definition enhance either the speed to market for any of the products or projects or initiatives for a company. It can help with redefining customer experience. It could be in accelerating or improving supply chains or what have you. Now, oftentimes these accelerators themselves, for them to be successful, will need to be underpinned with a very strong data and analytics foundation. And depending upon the data analytics maturity of an organization, different accelerators could be relevant at different stages of the journey. And therefore, what I think is that while there are different digital accelerators in form of either automation or tools or products or cloud or AI ML solutions, etc., what organizations will need to do is to pivot on the underlying data and analytics ecosystem. And there in itself, there are multiple accelerators to improve the underlying ecosystem. For example, organizations building data foundations would benefit hugely from augmented data management accelerators such as AI ML based data quality engines, pre-built data connectors and pipelines, industry data models, machine learning based taxonomy builders, etc. Similarly, organizations looking to expand their analytics based decision making would benefit from industry analytics platforms that have pre-trained models that can be deployed rapidly. And organizations looking to optimize their processes using AI and automation techniques would need to look at cognitive accelerators in the form of computer vision, unstructured data extraction, and contextualization. These underlying accelerators will not only solidify the data analytics foundations for organizations, but then make the overall digital accelerators far more effective. And that will allow businesses to not only regain their foot in the new normal, but be extremely competitive in the times to come.
All right. Data-driven insights will be more crucial than ever in decision making, from growing sales to lowering costs to increasing efficiency. What are your thoughts on this?
You couldn't be more right about this. I mean, according to a recent Forrester survey that we conducted, despite the market disruptions caused by the pandemic, a massive 82% of the decision makers within organizations which had advanced levels of data analytics maturity saw positive year-over-year growth over the past 3 years. And in stark contrast, only 9% of decision makers from organizations who had only beginner level data analytics maturity saw any revenue growth. And of these beginner level organizations, a staggering 61% saw decline in business performance. So the pandemic, as we all know, has brought about uncertainties in ways that were previously considered impossible. Whether it is global travel, commerce, shopping habits, lifestyles drastically changing overnight with lockdowns being imposed across the globe, etc. Now, there's been no precedence to handle such situations based on mere human intelligence-based decision making. And therefore, data and analytics-driven insights have served as a guidance to make informed decision making much more effective. right? And therefore, organizations who had a higher level of maturity in their data analytics ecosystem were far more confident of their decisions, far more proactive in aligning to market needs, and were able to realize cost savings and deliver superior customer experience. So absolutely, I think whether it's growing sales or lowering costs or increasing efficiency, data driven insights is going to be even more critical in the post pandemic era.
Wonderful. So, also tell me, does using data and analytics help businesses strengthen their operational resilience?
Harping back to the pandemic, one of the biggest challenges that we all saw across the globe was disruptions in global supply chains. And therefore, organizations have recognized that for them to have seamless supply chains, making sure that stock availability is there for their customers and provide seamless customer experience, they do need an operations which is far more resilient to shocks, have robust business continuity programs to avoid disruptions in their operations. More importantly, risk and compliance have become increasingly important in the business setup to proactively identify and mitigate risk impact, which is delivered through data and analytics. Now, using of AI, ML, which is artificial intelligence and machine learning, to give real-time insights on risk or on operational parameters is getting more prevalent and is resulting in resilient operations wherever organizations have been able to infuse these in their mainstream operations. Not only does it avoid for supply chain disruptions, but leads to huge cost savings for the enterprises. Now, whether risks across people, process, or technology, all of these can be managed far more effectively if you've got data and analytics embedded in your decision making. Interestingly, again, according to the Forrester survey that WNS commissioned, digital only businesses are leading the way, with 97 experiencing operational benefits from analytical practices, right? So I think completely believe in the truth that data and analytics not only will strengthen operational resilience, but will deliver far superior customer experience.
All right. So, we spoke about the operational part and how business growth is one of the factors that our focus is in today's conversation, Akhilesh. Talking about the customer behavior here, is customer behavior important in causing the demand shifts? Does it really aid in the detection of trends?
In the current scenario, customer behavior has always been important and does impact shift in demand. But there are other factors too. I mean, there's change in regulations, there's geopolitical issues, there are supply side disruptions. All of these also impact demand shifts. Evolving trends and shift from demand from offline to online channels is a customer buying behavior shift, but there's also disruption and resurgence now, for instance, in the travel industry, or for that matter, there's shortage of semiconductor chips in the electronics industry. There's fuel supply disruptions in the energy industry. All of these, in some shape or form, influence customer behavior and the resultant demand shifts. And therefore, I think adopting a decision science-based approach to predict demand that considers multiple of these factors forms a robust base for taking decisions related to demand and then supply as well. 37% of the organizations have called out that improved customer insights and better customer experience delivery as a topmost benefit of leveraging data and analytics, especially when they are using it to predict demand shifts.
All right. The value that data and analytics offers is indisputable, yet many organizations have yet to invest effectively in its capabilities. What are your thoughts on this, Akhilesh?
You are so right in that, Sukriti. When we looked at the study that we conducted or we commissioned Forrester to conduct, we saw that almost 2/3 of the organizations recognize data and analytics as a strategic enabler. but only 37% of those companies are able to prioritize investments in a better data and analytics ecosystem. Uh, there are multiple reasons that could be affecting that. Now, the first is that technology landscape of data and analytics is evolving at a very fast pace. And this is in line with change in computing power, storage, analytical techniques, AI, machine learning, and such. And enterprises end up falling somewhere in the spectrum between beginner level of adoption of these technologies and data analytics capabilities to fairly mature adopters of data analytics ecosystems. Now, the beginner organizations struggle fundamentally with defining an articulation of a data and analytics strategy for their organization. So almost 57% of decision makers, as per the study, say that they lack a clear strategy that articulates how data and analytics will be used to monetize and create competitive differentiation for themselves. And another 55% do not think they have the right business KPIs, levers, and measurements in place to ensure that the value of data and analytics capability are being communicated consistently internally within these organizations. Right. So these are some of the challenges of the beginner level adopters. Having said that, even the intermediate and mature level data analytics adopters find the need to focus further refining their organizational structure, people, expertise, and talent, and processes to achieve much greater benefits. So 65% of the surveyed decision makers in organizations with advanced level of data analytics maturity say that they've been able to centralize its data and analytics talent at the organization level. And while a centralized model does deliver greater efficiency in turning out whatever outputs that they are designed to deliver, could be dashboards, data sets, models, it does oftentimes inhibit in their ability to support the line of business functions in their decision making, and that affects lack of business buy. And therefore you'll notice that there are different challenges that different types of organization face depending upon where they are in the maturity level. Having said that, technology maturity was and is the #1 challenge cited by organizations in executing their data and analytics vision. 58% of these decision makers considered their current data management technology underdeveloped, which impacts downstream ability to process big data sets and act on it at speed that is required by their business, by their operations, by their customers. And therefore, I think there is a lack of underinvestment sometimes, and it is compounded by the fact that there is fast technological development, sometimes lack of process, sometimes lack of strategy, sometimes lack of talent. And therefore, organizations who are able to adapt to these challenges with the right approach, I think, are going to be able to better leverage the value that data analytics offers to them.
All right, so you've spoken about the Forrester report already, Akhilesh. According to the report, actually, quantifiable ROI was reported among organizations with higher data and analytics maturity levels, as you say. What are your comments onto that?
I mean, every organization, as we know, sees varying degrees of success and ROI from their investments in data analytics. And as I mentioned earlier, despite the pandemic, 82% of the decision maker organizations with an advanced level of maturity in data analytics saw positive year-on-year revenue growth during the pandemic, right, over the last 3 years. And only 9% of beginner level organizations actually experienced any revenue growth. So from an industry perspective also, if you see, relatively mature industry sectors such as banking, financial services, and insurance saw almost 79 and 74% decision makers respectively experiencing upticks in revenue performance. Therefore, interventions and investments at the right time in developing the organization's data analytics roadmap, besides keeping pace with the changing landscape of technology, is going to be key to the efficiency of your analytics programs. the investments in data analytics in itself is not going to only serve its purpose. That's a necessary condition, but you will also need to make sure you got the right change management practices, the appropriate implementation frameworks, and a culture of data driven decision making throughout the organization as you move up in your journey of analytics maturity. And that is likely to exponentially increase the ROIs from these investments.
All right. So we've spoken about the current scenario and what all trends the organizations are, looking at and how they are aiding this entire data analytics and AI to actually empower the business. Is data and analytics key to, staying ahead of the competition? And what's your opinion on the third-party service providers here, Akhilesh?
As we've been repeatedly discussing, Sukriti, during the course of this conversation, I think it is almost a no-brainer that data and analytics is going to be an absolute imperative for organizations to stay ahead. Now, digital transformation is a key agenda for most CXOs and even boards across the globe, and they see that as an absolute necessity to keep their businesses ahead of the market. And as I alluded, data analytics is a primary driver in that digital transformation. Enterprises, therefore, will have to continuously adapt to the changing landscape of businesses and technology. And I think the organizations recognize this. I think 73% of organizations cited an accelerating response to business and market changes as a top priority and investment area for data and analytics, which means they want to make investments in data analytics, and an overwhelming number of them think that the usage of that analytics in accelerating response to business changes is going to be critical for them to go ahead. And therefore, no matter at which stage of the data and analytics driven business transformation journey you as an organization find yourselves in, or they find themselves in, it is going to be necessary for them to be able to plug into the right capabilities and partners to make sure that they are building the right capabilities and deploying the right analytics within their organizations. There are three kinds of capabilities they will broadly need. One, they will need either themselves or partner with a service provider who has the right industry and functional domain, but more importantly, has the ability to consult with them to set the right analytics and data strategy and roadmap. Two, that the partner has the next generation cloud-based analytic platforms that can accelerate either time to value of their analytics programs or time to execution. And third, a partner who can bring in a center of excellence approach that designs the right operating model for data analytics and runs a steady state analytics program that continues to give ROI even as businesses adapt to their market circumstances. And I think a number of organizations have found success by partnering with such third-party service providers to accelerate their pace of transformation. And many leaders in the service provider market bring best practices, bring industry domain, bring innovation, bring the consulting next generation platform COE approach, and often take the responsibility for end-to-end implementation and business outcomes. Based on the Forrester survey that we spoke of, 42% increase in the engagement of third-party service provider is going to be expected in the coming days, right? So a lot of people who are already engaged with third-party service provider will see a almost 42% increase in the engagement. This is significant. So I think all organizations, as they stay true to their own goals of providing good customer experience and services, will increasingly partner with third-party expertise to make sure that they are leveraging the best to stay true to their digital transformation agenda. So, I think times are exciting. There is a lot of exciting change, And we are helped by the fact that there is phenomenal progress in technology. There's phenomenal progress in our ability to harness data. There's phenomenal progress in ability to process data. And I think I am very excited by the prospect of partnering with a lot of these CXOs and work on their data analytics problems. I think the opportunity is huge for these organizations to lead in their respective industries.
So clearly, Akhilesh, rapid technological advances in digitization and data and analytics have been reshaping the business landscape and supercharging their performance and enabling the businesses, the emergence of new business innovations and new forms of competitions altogether. Thank you so much for giving us this exclusive information about the Forrester report and the insights based on your experience with us in this delightful conversation, Akhilesh.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure interacting with you, Sukriti. And I look forward to, as I said, um, unraveling and looking at the future of the data analytics AI marketplace. I think we are all faced with very exciting times.
Absolutely. This brings us to the end of the conversation. Audience, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this episode and had a great learning. Stay tuned to TechGeek for all the latest updates and happenings.